About a year ago, I did a full tutorial of Canva and all of its features. Since then, Canva has added a multitude of different features to increase its functionality indefinitely. Whether you want to create designs for your business, add images to an already existing presentation, or just impress your family and friends by creating a flyer from scratch. In today's video, I'm going to show you everything you need to turn your ideas into art. Let's dive right in. So since the video I made last year, Canva has updated not only their user interface just to make it a lot more presentable, including their home screen and the buttons on the top are now on the side, but they've also updated their pro Canva experience, now offering it not only to teachers, but to students as well. If you're a teacher and you have students in grade school, or if you're a professor, or if you're even a student in a university, you all have access to Canva for free using a school email, which just makes access to Canva's pro features even more accessible to everybody. If that doesn't work, spend the 4 years, couple $100,000, become a teacher. It's no big deal. Let's start with the home screen. We're going to do a deep dive today. So we're going to start with its interface and go through just about every menu you can think of in order for you to realize just what Canva is really capable of. Coming over here, as soon as you log in, this is what you're going to see. So you do have all of your tabs on the left side. You can actually open a menu and see all the recent designs that you've created. And you can come over here, you can see your projects if you have any. If you click over here, you can see your templates design. So this is if you're trying to look up something specific, like I was looking up like an overlay for streaming, or you can look up presentation designs. You could look up specific designs if you're trying to create a marketing campaign, or if you're trying to create an invitation, right? My wife and I got married and she used Canva for all of the invitations that we sent out, the save the dates, etc. If you come over here, you'll also see the photos that you can put into your designs. You'll see the graphics that you can put into your designs and look up specifically what you're looking for. So once we get into the actual design, that's kind of like a one-stop shop. And these separate it even more, give you a little more detail. But if you click into each one of these, let's say I'm going for this nature picture. As you can see, this picture in particular has a free content license. So if you want to use it for commercial use, you can. But from right here, you can use it in a design, you can favorite it, or you can add it to a specific project or a specific folder if you wanted to. The next tab down is Canva AI, which they have released in their Canva Create presentation in March, and they slowly rolled it out. I actually just got access to it about 3 weeks ago or so. So we are going to go into all of what Canva AI has to offer and everything like that. The next tab down, you have your apps. So if you are trying to upscale a photo, or if you're trying to swap your face or eye track, or maybe colorize a photo, you have all these different features. And once we get into it, you can see these different categories here. If you're trying to look up a specific thing, you can always search up what you're looking for. So if I'm looking for some mock-ups, you'll see you have all of these and you can click into one of them. You can use an existing design or use a new design and just get right to it right away. Since I am a teacher, I also have this classwork feature, so I can actually have my students come in here and work with me. I can create a document and they can work in it right from here. As I wanted them to create a poster for a written piece that they're working on, I can come over here and it's already set up. You have the templates on the left and all of these different features, and then you can share it with your specific students. What's also cool about this is that your students will also be in here because they have their own Canva account now. You can review what assignments they hand in or turn in, right? And then you'll see everything that pops up over here. And then these last two buttons are just your notifications and your typical settings tab, where you can see your subscriptions and help and settings and all of those type of things. So let's dive in. I'm going to come back to this homepage and I'm going to click on your designs. So once you click on your designs, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's basically all the things that you personally have uploaded. So it'll show that your designs, it'll show your images, and it'll show your videos. And then of course you can search in here. So as long as you have titled your documents, you'll be able to search it up. Once you go over to templates, you can click over here and search millions of different templates that you want to do. So let's say I am looking for wedding invitations. All right, I can click over here and these are all the different templates that users and people have created themselves that you can go ahead and now modify. So if I'm looking and I like this one, nice and simple, you can just print it from here. I don't know why you would, because unless your name is specifically Stephen Emmanuel and Augustine Wilson, I'm not sure why you would. But you can come over here and instantly customize it. And since it's Canva native, everything here you can change, you can get rid of, you can move around. You can come over here and print it right from Canva. So you can print it, you can ship it right to you, which is kind of cool. You can change the paper finish, and then you can change how many invitations you want. And Canva itself will just print it right to you. Again, if you're looking for one and this one's piquing your eye, you can always favorite it and come back to it, and it'll show up in your stars tab that you can view right from there. So this is the templates tab. Anything that you're interested in or trying to make a video or presentation or document on, you'll come over here and do it then. If you're looking for posters or zoos, you'll come over here, and these are all the posters that they have on zoos. If you're trying to look for like advertising for something, right? My kids just made their own pieces on zoos, so they use these to help them start, and then they modified them themselves and created their own. And then you have Canva AI, which I do have an entire video on, so make sure you click up here to see that one. It's actually split into two parts because they've rolled out half of their new features without Canva AI and without Sheets and other things, and then I did a follow-up video on that. So if you want to see both of those, make sure you click up over here. But basically, Canva AI is just like most other AIs. You type in what you want, click go, and it'll search it for you. What you can also do here, though, is you can click on design for me, and it asks you what you wanted to design. So let's say I wanted to create a presentation, and then you can describe what you want, and it'll specifically create a presentation for you. You can create a logo, and it'll do the same thing. Create an image. It's an image generator. That's about all it is to it. It's okay. There are plenty of websites that are specifically designed for image generation, and Canva has a whole lot of pre-designed, curated images and pictures that you can do and pick that are already created. What is cool, though, is you can modify what aspect ratio you want. And like most other image generators, you can select the style that you want it in. So if you wanted an all-in-one Canva experience, they have now an image generator. They don't quite have a video generator yet, but I'm sure they will get to it if that's something that you're interested in. You can also, which is cool, add your own media. So if you have a reference picture, let's say I'm looking for the zoo poster, right? I can click design for me. I can click presentation, type in zoo, and then add in a picture of like the specific zoo I want, or add in a specific animal that I want it to include, or the style that I want it to be in. And I can add it here. You also have the speak to me feature, which is kind of cool. So if you're a much faster speaker than you are a typer, or just you're not an accurate typer, or again, for kids, if they're just starting to type and it's easier for them to speak. I use Google Docs with them and they use speech to text all the time. Now Canva also has that feature. So if I wanted to say that I wanted to create a picture of a zoo, it'll come up over here. Of course, it's not going to edit it for you. It's just going to write what you say. You can draft a document. So if you're trying to write up a business proposal or an email or maybe a flyer that you want, right? If you're having a party and you're trying to come up with a flyer or like a lost animal picture, whatever you want, you can draft a document, tell it what you want it to be. It'll create the outline for you, the story, and you can actually tell it what you want it to sound like. So if you want it to be a tweet, if you want it to be a formal email, if you wanted it to be a letter, it'll actually modify the speaking voice to whichever category you want, right? We have different ways of talking depending on your medium, which is pretty cool. The last part is the code for me, which was my latest video. You can click over here to see that one. So let's say I wanted to create I actually did one already, but let's say I wanted to create a fractions quiz for fourth graders up to like denominators, right? You can click go and it'll not only code for you, but it'll actually show you the code itself. So if you are beginning to code, you can copy this and actually learn from it and modify different things. So it's kind of like a double whammy, which is cool, but it does show you the thought process. If you didn't like what it creates, you can always tell it to change something and it'll change it on the spot, which is also pretty cool. And then you get this as a finished product. So you can double click into it, click on what it is. And if you get it right, it'll tell you. If you get it wrong, it'll tell you, and then it'll tell you what it gets wrong. If I really didn't like this, I can go back into Canva AI and create a new one. And what's cool about Canva is it'll actually show you all the things that you were working on. So it'll tell you what you've previously done. So if you wanted to change anything, right, this is the version that it created, I can come over here and tell it, right, I can add in mixed numbers and improper fractions, and it'll change the entire quiz. If it messes up in any way, I can always click on version 1 that I know that works, which is pretty cool. So Canva AI is very awesome. I think in my circumstances, I would really only use it for its coding features so that I can create interactive games so that if I'm absent or something along those lines, or they have a quiz coming up, they can practice. So it's not all in person. After COVID for 3 years, I wanted to get them away from the computer, but that's just not a thing, right? So I've kind of slowly started to embrace it, and I know they love computer games. So this was a cool way, just another tool for me to use to get the students engaged and they're learning while they do it, which is obviously a beautiful added bonus. But that is Canva's new AI. So let's come back in here. I'm not going to show you every single design that Canva has, because then we'd be here for 17 and a half hours, and I'm sure I'd miss half of it. But let's start with a presentation. Canva has added several new features in Canva Create this year. One of those features is the multi-design tool. So what you can do is if you're trying to create, let's say, like I said, my students were creating a poster for their Google Doc. But let's say I wanted them to create it on Canva. I can have them create their Google Doc. And in that same design, they would come over and they'd click on their zoo, right? So they can actually create the zoo poster right in their Google Doc, which is pretty phenomenal now. And then let's say I wanted them to create a video, right? Maybe like a video presentation on why they think zoos are ethical. Right in here, they can click on video landscape, and now they can insert their own video. Let's say they recorded it on their Chromebooks, they can upload it right to here, and then they just insert it, right? And I know this is an image, but they set the video as background and they're good to go. What Canva has had for a long time is if you have a picture, right, you can come over and edit it from here. So before we get into that, let's just get into all of the different features that Canva has. Once you click onto a presentation or you click into a Google Doc or anything like that, you can see this slightly changes, but for the most part, your settings will stay the same unless you're going to Google Sheets, I think is like the biggest one that changes. For the most part, you'll see all of these features on the left. So you do have your design feature. So if you're looking up a whole design that you want to change, you can come over, click on a design that's already made, and then each individual graphic you can change, you can delete, you can move around. You have the design tab where you can choose an entire design. And actually, if you click on one of them, it'll give you offshoots of the same thing. You have the elements tab where if you want a specific picture, you can click on that and it'll give you graphics, it'll give you photos, and it'll give you videos, and it'll even now give you audio, which is pretty cool. But I can insert any one of these and I will show you how to edit in a minute. But before we get to that, let's come over here. Again, you have texts, so you can just add a text box wherever you can magic write. So if you come over to your document, you can come over to magic write and it'll ask you what you want it to tell you. So let's say I wanted it to create zoo animal descriptions. I can come over here and I can actually just insert it directly into my document. And now I can edit whichever I want. Let's say the zoo doesn't have emperor penguins, or if you wanted to add details, right? If you wanted to pick one of these, let's say I wanted to talk more about the giraffe. I can come over here and talk more about the giraffe. I can even come back and I can transform what it wrote into a different thing. So that is your text, but you can also now add page numbers to your text. So if you have a presentation, you can just add a simple page number on there as well. You can change the text with different apps and like specific fonts and whatnot, but we'll get to that in a minute. If you go to brands, we were talking about brands before, but if you have a specific font for your brand or photo or graphic that you'll use on multiple presentations, they'll come up here. Uploads are just all the pictures and videos and audio that you've uploaded. If you come into tools, you'll get things where you can like draw or add text boxes or add a table wherever you would like. All right, so if I click on table, it's going to add a table. Pretty self-explanatory. The projects is what we were talking about before, where if you add certain elements or certain designs into a specific folder. So if you have different features that you'd like or things that you favorited and you wanted to add them to a specific folder, you can come over here and add it there. And then lastly, you have your app section. These are things like Magic Morph. These are things like adding like a cartoon picture in there. These are things like voiceover, emojis. Some of them are AI features, but some of them are like image upscalers. Some of them are like a mock-up tab, right? Where if you insert a picture of a mug and then let's say you wanted the tiger to be on the mug, you can go in and it'll have a whole list of mock-ups. A QR code generator that you can upload a website and it'll give you a QR code. There are hundreds of different apps. Almost all of them are third party, so they are hit or miss on whether they work. But most of the popular ones, like obviously Google Drive and mockups, they'll work because they are part of a much larger company, and mockups is actually part of Canva itself. Under the app section, you have Magic Media, which we'll get into in a minute. That's part of Canva's Magic Studio, which I did do a little bit of in my last video, and I have a couple videos on Magic Studio if you want to take a look at those. Audio, you can generate an AI voice, so if you're not comfortable talking, or let's say, again, for your students, if you have students that are just not very comfortable talking, but they wrote an entire presentation, you can create the AI voice that'll read it for them, right? So you'll have voiceover and text and graphics. You get the multimodal approach and you're good to go. You have bulk create, so you can actually like upload a Google Sheet, click bulk create, and it'll create a bunch of different tabs about the same design, but different topics, which is kind of cool if you're in. Again, just another feature that you can use. You have your caption. So if you have a video, like it says video in here, right? If you upload a video, let's say, if you come over here and you upload a video and then you click on captions, you can click on it and it'll generate the captions for you. And what's pretty cool, it looks like a jumbled mess here, but that's because it's grouped. You ungroup them, and now you have all of your individual captions so that you can actually spread them out if you want. Obviously, these are all timed to when they are talking, but you can do that. You can change the font, you can change the color. So if you want to emphasize a specific thing that they say, you can make it bigger, smaller, different colored, etc. Add an effect to it. You have all of those, and that's basically about it for the left-hand side. You have your different settings. You can upload a file here, although you can always just go to upload and drag in a file that way. A lot of what Canva does is redundant, which is great because there's many different ways that you can do the same thing. So if you're comfortable with one way of doing things, maybe on a different platform, Canva integrates things super well, and their interface is just so well done that it makes it extremely easy to come over and use from any other platform that you're using, right? You have your accessibility features. You can save, although Canva automatically saves. I think most things do nowadays. You can move your design to a specific folder. So again, if you didn't want to use multi-design, this feature has been around for longer than multi-design has been around. You can move it to a specific folder, maybe a collaborative folder so that you're working with other people, although we'll get to that in a minute with the share button. You can make a copy of it. So if this is your master design, let's say you're making this for students, and you want your students to have editable templates, you can make a copy of it. You can download it. You can go into your version history, right? So you have something from 5 minutes ago where you just had this, and now the current version has the video added to it, right? You can move it to the trash if you really don't like it. And then they do have a desktop app. I haven't used the desktop app because Canva's website interface is so well done. There's been no need for me, but you can always open it in the desktop app. You can also resize it. So let's say I have my presentation. I can resize it by right-clicking, but I can resize it into any one of these. I can resize it into a social media post, let's say. Let's say I wanted to turn this and animate everything myself. I would animate it first, and then I could turn it into an Instagram story. It will copy and resize it, and you'll still have your original, but now you'll also have this. Since it's a different aspect ratio, not everything translates, but I can come over here, make everything bigger, and just adapt it for a Instagram post. Some things actually do auto-adapt, which is kind of cool. And then you come over here and you can edit, you can suggest, you can comment, or you can just view. So again, you're the editor. You want your whole school to see this, or you want your students to see it, but you don't want them to edit it themselves. You just want them to see it, right? Or if you're doing a presentation for your business and you have a bunch of statistics on here, you can click on view and now they can't edit anything. Undo, redo, things along those lines. Again, cloud services, everything's already auto-saved. Change the title up here. These are all the people that are on the document, but you can also share the design with anybody by clicking the plus button, add whoever you want in here. You can look at the analytics. So if you are sharing this with a bunch of people, you can see who is looking at it for how long, right? If you're doing some analytics and marketing metrics and things along those lines. This is where you would do that. Other people can leave comments, right? Just like a regular Google Doc. You can present. I can actually present and record what I'm doing, which is kind of cool, right? So if I wanted to pre-record this, or if I'm going to be absent and I wanted to pre-record this for my students so that they can take a look at it, or just to record it so that they can take a look back if they need to follow specific directions on a project, this is how I would do that. And then the sharing tab, it's a big tab. There's a lot of different features on here. Here's where you can share your design. You can choose who can access it. You can copy the link. You can download it. You can print your design with Canva, like we were talking about with the invitations. You can go to Google Classroom and upload it right to Google Classroom. You can get a viewable link where people who have it will automatically be sent to view only mode. You can get a template link. So if you have like a lesson plan that you have that you want to share on like Etsy or Teachers Pay Teachers or something on those lines, you can get the template link. You can turn this right into a QR code, right? So you want people to scan it and then open up the presentation or open up this statistic, you can do it there. And then you come down here and you can share it with your social media platforms, right? You can share it with Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest. If you click on see all, you get a whole bunch of other ones. And then you can actually just assign it right to your students. So again, when we were over here at the homepage and I had my classwork in there, I can click on here, go to assign, and it'll ask me where I wanted to submit it, which is kind of cool. I can submit it right to Google Classrooms. I can click on Canva and it'll create the design for each new student. And then down here, you can zoom in, zoom out. You have all your different pages and the different layout. So I can have it go like this. I can have the grid view. So if I have a whole lot of pages open, I can see all of them at once. I can change this into full screen just like that. Again, click on full screen here, or Control-Alt-P will change it right to full screen also. It's like that. So again, a whole lot of features, a whole lot of ways to do the exact same thing, which is awesome. Canva's best asset is its ease of use, is its user interface. I'm teaching this to second graders and they're understanding it just fine. And it's extremely easy to use for just about anybody. However, on the opposite end, there are so many features that it's hard to master, right? So you can get really good at this or think you're really good at this and see somebody that's actually really good at doing things on Canva and you're like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing, which is pretty incredible. So now let's get into what Canva can actually do with what you give it. So let's say I'm clicking over here and I don't like the color scheme of these animals, right? Let's say I want to change the colors to orange. I can change it to brown or black, and it'll change a specific part, right? These are changing the trees. I can click on this brown one, and it'll change the spots on the giraffe. And for some reason, this branch over here. I can click on the green color, and it'll change the giraffe color itself. And for some reason, the trees. Each picture is slightly different in what it can modify. And some pictures, like this bird, it's a graphic, so it won't actually let me edit any of it. I can edit the tone of it, right? I can change the brightness of it. Let's say I have a picture of myself. Look at that beautiful bald man. I can come over here and I can change the color scheme, but it's going to change the entire picture because it doesn't really know this picture isn't Canva native. So I can come over and I can get rid of the background and everything in the background goes away. I can come over here and edit this picture. So I can not only remove the background, but I can create an entirely new background at the park, right? Obviously, the better you are at prompting, the better this is going to come out. But with Canva, you can actually just edit as many times as long as you have the pro version. So you can just change it. And now I'm at the park. Let's say I have my background, but I don't like the way something looks, right? I can come over here, click on Magic Eraser. And let's say I wanted to get rid of the whiteboard in the background. I can highlight most of the whiteboard. Now that I highlighted some of the drill, it might erase that. It's kind of specific, right? But I can click on erase and it'll do its best to erase the background. I don't know why it gave me that. Just expanded my bump, which is cool. Thanks, Canva. Thank you. I appreciate that. But I can come over here and let's say I just wanted to change the foreground, right? I wanted to get rid of myself and I'm gone, right? Let's say instead of the foreground, I wanted to get rid of the text, right? It'll auto detect text and then I can click on whichever ones I want to get rid of. Just like that, it'll do its best to get rid of the text on the screen, right? So I click on all of these that I want to get rid of. And again, these are AI features, so they're always going to get better, right? But let's go and let's say I wanted to grab the text, right? I can come over here, and now that I have the text that is in the photo, right, I can actually come over and grab it. So now I can move it around. So now this is actually movable text. Usually it does put it in a different font because it's just trying its best to use a Canva font, right? But now I have usable text. I can click on this one and I can change the color of it now, or I can change the font. So it'll take the text right from the picture. There's also like the grab text feature and the magic edit. Canva definitely has to improve on those features. They aren't the best, so we're not going to go over those specifically. But what I can also do is I can go into filters and it'll just automatically change the color aspect of it. I can go into blur and it'll change what it blurs out. So if I have information that I don't want people to see, right? Maybe I don't want you to see my book collection. I can get rid of all of it. Now you can't see it. No one can see it. I can come over and I can do an autofocus. So if for whatever reason my face wasn't in focus, or there's two subjects and I want it to specifically look at me, I can come over and change it just like that. I can have it focus on me instead of the background, or maybe I wanted it to focus on the background. I can come over and I'll be able to select which part I want it to focus on. I can select the blur intensity of what it's not focusing on, right? Depending on what I want it to be. Now everything else is blurry. I can come over here and I can do a mock-up. So let's say I wanted picture of a laptop, and I can put my face in the computer screen. Hello, me. Look at that beautiful mug and also the coffee cup. You can add effects to different fonts, right? So if I want to add a neon effect, I can come over here, add neon. I can add a glitch effect. It'll only let you do one effect at a time usually. Let's say I wanted to change it so now that it's arching over. Right, I can do it like that. The text is now behind the giraffe. There is a shortcut for this, but I can always right click, go on layer, and I can bring it to the front. Or if you click shift in the left bracket, you can decide what layer it's on, right? If you right click on here again, you can actually show the element typing. So if you are doing a presentation and you want the thank you piece to just be at the end for whatever reason, right? You have your whole presentation and you have your thank you piece. Now, when you go into present, you'll have this, and then right at the end, before it changes, you'll have the thank you slide, and then it'll go into the next slide. When you come over here, now that you have an element timing, you can now animate it. So you can choose how it pops up, right? You can choose if it rises from the top or pans from the right. And you can blur it and then unblur it so it'll pop up in a different way. You can change that with basically any text. I can come over here, click on animate, and it'll do the same thing. Again, I can change the position of it. But what you can also do when you click on position is see all of your different layers. I didn't even realize that there was the for your attention. I didn't even see that. So I can put that to the front, and then I can change the color of it. I can bold it. I can change the font, or I can just make it a heading, right? I can do whichever I want. If I have this piece here, but I didn't want it to be so in my face, right? I can lower the transparency, do it like that. Right, so it shows me that it's behind other things. Right? Maybe I have a sky, or maybe it's just a cloudy day. And then if you really want to get into the weeds, you have the kerning effect, which it spaces the letters out pretty evenly, which is kind of cool. Ligatures, I've tried them. I've kept trying to see what it would do, and it just doesn't really do much. I'm sure with certain fonts, it does a lot more. You can't really edit that though, so it's either on or off. And then I turn it off, and I guess that's just the font itself. So ligatures doesn't really do much, but I have noticed that with most fonts, the kerning does work. You can do bullet points, right? You can change this to bullet points. So if I have it over here, it's the same thing, right? I can change these to bullet points. I can change these, and I can change the letter spacing. I can change the line spacing, just like a regular document. But what's cool is that you could also do it in a presentation as well. So now what I'm going to show you is how to put this all together for a specific project. So I'm going to create a new design, and let's just say I wanted to create a flyer. And I kind of did this actually in my old presentation. I created a movie night poster. So what I can do, let's just take a pre-made design, click movie night. What you'll notice is that number one, it says all of the basic information, so you can edit each part, right? So let's say this is not where I live. Let's say it's in 321 Salt Lake City Avenue, West Virginia, Georgia, but not the state. I can change that. I can change the number. Let's say I don't want anybody to have my number. Click delete, and it's gotten rid of. I really want my ticket price to be a different number. I can either change it or I can change the font, right? Maybe I want it to stand out. So maybe I can come over here and make it bigger. And instead of $10, I can tell me that it's free, but now it's too big. So you just lower the font size until it shows up as on one line. Now it's not really popping out. So I can come over here and I can outline it. So now it really pops out, but that's a little bit too big. So let's lower that, put that in the right-hand corner, and I'll get rid of that. Let's say I really like this graphic. However, for whatever reason, I don't like these 3 popcorns over here. I can come over here, I can click on edit, and I can click on, well, actually, I can just click on click, and it'll auto detect that these 3 popcorns are here, and then I can erase it. It's not going to work with every item, but a lot of the graphics that Canva itself creates, it works semi-well. Again, it turned it into like a black mesh. So if that didn't work, I can come over. If it didn't auto-detect or if it didn't do it perfectly, I can come over and I can either erase it or I can grab it, right? And it'll do its best to get rid of it. I could always zoom in and try to get much more exact over here and be very particular about it if I really wanted to. For demonstration purposes, it's really not that big a deal. So now you can see it's basically erased. I can't really even tell that it's there. Let's say I really like this picture, but the red in the popcorn, I wanted it to be yellow or I wanted it to be brown or black. I can change it that way. I can come over here and you can see this is just the background. It's not actually part of the text. So what I can do is I can change the background of this, right? Let's say this is what I wanted to be red. I can change the background of it now, right? I wanted the text to be a different color. I can select the text and come over and do it that way. Let's say I wanted to add in my own thing. I can come over to Magic Media and describe what I like, right? This is kind of like Canva's AI creation tool, right? It'll create an image or a graphic or a video just by using words. Again, all of this is experimental and kind of new and hit or miss. So use at your own discretion. I can come over down here and I can click on mockup and I want the mockup to be of like an entire movie screen. Maybe I have this in the corner so it'll show me what the movie is going to look like and then I can insert my image. So let's say the movie, I can upload an actual picture, like an actual movie. Like if I'm showing The Lion King or if I'm showing Avatar or Inception, whatever I want, I can actually pull in a still image and pop it in there. But let's just say we're watching a documentary. I can come over here, take a picture of a lion and have the lion up on the screen and insert my own movie into there. With mockups, I have an entire video about mockups and what you can do with them. So make sure you click if you want to learn more about how to make images like pop and how to do different things in presentations. Each individual star, it tells me that it can ungroup it. So each individual star, if I really wanted to, I can click on this specific one and I can delete it. So let's say I have this star, I can deleted one star, but I can also just change the colors of another star. So I have this. In this particular image, I can actually change the different parts of it. So I have the outline I can change, I have the top part of the star, and then I have the bottom part of the star that I can change to whichever I want. Each image, each graphic is going to be a little bit different, but for the most part, you'll be able to change just about everything on the image, which is kind of cool. And then when you're done, again, you can always share it to a website or you can download it so that you can share it for wherever. You can print it yourself, right? So you can download it and then print it, or you can print it with Canva if you really wanted to make it official, right? So there's a lot of things that you can do. So if you want specific tutorials on how to do certain things on Canva, let me know in the comments down below. There's a million things that you can do with Canva. I'm not an expert in any of them. I'm just kind of an enthusiast and a teacher that likes to mess around with what it has to offer. But I'm always willing to learn and try new things. So if you want to see a specific thing that Canva can do, make sure you leave it in the comments down below and ask about it. Other than that, if you like this in-depth tutorial, let me know. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. But other than that, I hope this helped and have a wonderful day. Boop.